Thank you, Damien O'Connor, for being interviewed by Generation Zero. Our first question is, as a prospective MP, what is the legacy you would like to see left for the next generation and those beyond?
Well, what I'd love to see is a country and a region here that provides the opportunity and the inspiration for young people so that they can remain in New Zealand, feel really positive about it, and know that we've got a good future for generations beyond that. And that's around protecting the environment, it's around having good job opportunities, having a good education and health system that support everyone. So my part in that is to be in a government as an MP, contributing to a positive vision and to policies that achieve all those things. And we need to protect our water, protect our soil, our air, all our forests, all those wonderful things, but be able to provide opportunities for jobs that are creative, are rewarding, and contribute positively to both the economy and to the environment that we live in.
Oh, lovely. So, what risks do you think climate change poses to the well-being of young people and the future generations of New Zealand?
Well, anything that has impact on our environment, on the water or the soil, it potentially is detrimental to their lives and the lives of future generations. So we've got to make sure that the place that we live is as good as, if not better, than the one that we found. And so climate change has been identified as having a real impact. For an area like this, that means changing patterns in what we can grow, what our economy will be based on. So we have to try and reduce the impact of climate change or be able to adapt to that. And what is seen as an inevitable change to levels in the ocean, to the climate, the temperatures, and all those things that have the potential to be really disastrous.
Okay. So, do you think that the action New Zealand's government is currently taking on climate change is sufficient and does justice to our future generations? And if not, what goals and actions would you push in for next term?
Well, I think most of the policies that the national government has implemented are pretty limp. They've wound back on some of the commitments around the carbon reduction program through the ETS, and their national policy statement on water is pretty pathetic. So we've got to toughen up in those areas. We've got to actually have some really achievable but effective goals in all those areas. And while I personally would have rather seen a carbon tax across the economy, one that was fairer and better able to be managed internally, we're now committed to an ETS. We have to make sure that that ETS does achieve the goals that we set out to do with it, and that is reduce carbon um, uh, and our reliance on over time, not just simply end up with a bunch of tradable carbon credits. And that's the real danger if we don't do this right.
Okay. Well, that quite answers the second question. So, I'll move on to third. So, what are your opinions on the expansion of fossil fuel industries such as coal and lignite mining and oil and gas exploration in New Zealand? And do you personally support the call for a 10-year moratorium on new coal and lignite developments?
No, I don't personally support that moratorium. I think we have to be very careful with our utilisation of our resources. I think we need to identify if they are there. The world still relies on hydrocarbons for I guess, to fuel our economies, our transport systems, and much of what we do. We have to wean ourselves off that, but that will take time. In terms of high value coal that we find on the West Coast, we'll continue to need that in the production of high quality steel for a whole lot of technical uses that will enable us to move forward and reduce our reliance on carbon. But in the interim, we'll need those high value. With regard to lignite, I support the party position that at this point in time, it is crazy to utilise it with the technology that we have. We simply emit too much carbon for too little benefit. The resource should be left in the ground. If at some point in the future we can utilise that without huge emissions and recycle some of that carbon, then that is perhaps the way to go. At this point, we don't need to use the lignite. and we just need to extract a very high value carbon coal from the lakes of the west coast for steel making and other high value uses.
Okay. So what do you see as the main future sources of energy for electricity, transport and heating for New Zealand? And do you support the call for the government to create an action plan to attain 100% renewable energy by 2050?
I think it's a great goal to have, and there's no reason we shouldn't be there. We have a very high level of renewables through hydro and through increasing reliance on wind power. We're still burning a lot of coal and a lot of gas for our electricity. It'd be great if we didn't have to do that. So we've got to look at new technologies. We've got solar, and we started looking at that in the 70s, and then everyone backed off it. So we've got to push forward with that. We've got new tidal power, some exploration work in that area, again with wind, but we've just got to have a good mix so that we've got some reliability of supply for industries that we still need to drive our economy into the future. So we need a good, secure supply of electricity. Renewables is quite possible, and that should be our goal.
Okay. So do you think that the government should be doing more to promote research, development and deployment of low carbon and more sustainable technologies and practices in New Zealand?
Yes, I think we should do because it's sensible, and as the price of hydrocarbons, oil and coal continues to climb, then if we can, reduce our reliance and the costs, then we're all going to be better off. So it's a very sound economic argument as well as a good environmental one. In terms of incentives, then the theory was that the ETS would provide sufficient incentives. I don't believe that necessarily will be the case. I think it's still a very complex system. Hopefully, it will achieve the goals that we set out for it. But I think we've got a lot to learn in that area, and we've just got to make sure that we get to the right outcome, regardless of the processes that we're going to use.
So do you perceive New Zealand's dependence on oil as a risk to our economy in the age of high and increasing oil prices? And do you support the reallocation of spending on new roads towards low carbon and public transport initiatives?
Yeah, I think our reliance is at risk. I mean, our reliance on any imported products means that we are dependent upon the actions and I guess the cost structures of other companies, of overseas corporations. We should be as independent as possible. So if we have to, if we can get away with importing less fuel, less oil, then that's great for everyone. So, I think it's great if we can develop alternatives. They will not be cheap, and we've got to make sure that in making that transition, we leave the door open for all New Zealanders to have access to the technology and to the transport, and we can have a very sophisticated low carbon transport system in the cities. The reality is, for many people in the country, they still need to be able to get around and participate in society and contribute to the economy. So we have a very high level of urban dwelling and urbanisation in this country, but we're still dependent upon the production and the exports from rural New Zealand, so we can't forget about what that might mean for them.
So what actions would you take in your electorate to enable your community to increase their understanding of climate change and to reduce their emissions and dependence on oil?
Well, I think as I do now, I guess you just have to engage whenever you can in all of these discussions. They're not simply environmental ones, they're economic, they're social, and if we're going to have a comprehensive plan going forward as a government, and I hope to be an MP in that government, then we need to get everyone on board, and if we're all trying to achieve the same goal, then we'll get there. I think fighting and scrapping over things, as the National Party has set up, is not helpful at all. Trying to get people to deny the fact that we're in a world that is focused on climate change and carbon reduction, burying our heads in the sand is not helpful. So building unity around these issues is really important, and that's what I intend to do.
All right, thank you so much. We really appreciate your interview, and good luck.